baseball's a wave. You ride it as long as you can. This was Kevin Newman talking to me yesterday after the game at PNC Park. And, we'll see where his wave takes him by tomorrow at 6 p.m. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. Comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins. Where you found this, Phillies 8, Pirates 2. You don't want to hear about that, do you? I was there. I covered it. It was every bit as miserable and bland as that score makes it sound, at least from the Pittsburgh perspective. Other than that Newman, hitting out of the leadoff spot again, went 3 for 5, doubled, scored a run, stole a base, looked pretty much like he has ever since coming off the IL on the 8th of July. He's been very productive for the season, and remember that his season only encompasses 32 games. He's batting .289, which is way above anybody else on the roster, but he's also got a .759 OPS despite not having a home run yet, which means he's driving the ball. He's just not necessarily putting it over fences. He's done that at different points in his career, but he's not a real power guy. What he is, when he's at his best, is this. He has just enough of an uppercut to his swing that, unlike his 2021 season, he'll put the ball over infielders' heads instead of right at them, and he'll get his share of doubles and gappers and so forth, and that's the way he looked again yesterday. His hits weren't accidents. They weren't excuse-me's. And we talked about that for a little bit, and I got to tell you, he really lit up. There's nothing that baseball people, and when I say people, I'm including players, coaches, instructors, developmental people, there's nothing that they take more pride in than when they work on one specific thing off the field over a sustained span of time, and then it plays out the way they want in Major League games. Newman basically reconstructed the path of his swing. That's the way he laid it out for me. And when I said, does that mean that you had to start earlier or get sharper timing on it so that you could pull the ball more? Because that's the other thing that's been common about him when he hits well, is that he pulls like he did yesterday. He said no, though he acknowledged that his timing is really, really sharp right now. It wasn't a matter of making his swing longer or getting started earlier. It was just a matter of which direction it went. So he stays back on the ball. Try to picture this when you've seen him hit enough. He'll stay back, he'll keep that chin in, and he'll just go at the ball, but on something of an uppercut. Not Willie Stargell uppercut, but enough that the ball is going to make it somewhere that's more significant than an infielder's glove. And he's gotten real results for it. And as I pointed out to him, I said, this looks a lot like the U from spring training 3 years ago, and he carried it right into the 2019 season. Do you remember the 2019 season at all? That was the one in which there were two guys, not one, two, who were outstanding hitters all season long for the Pirates. Everyone remembers the breakout of Brian Reynolds, but nobody remembers the breakout of Newman. Their numbers ended up really, really similar that year. And at kind of a similar age, too. This portion of Daily Shot of Pirates is brought to you by our friends at North Shore Tavern. That's directly across Federal Street from PNC Park. It's home of Steak on a Stone, an eating experience, underscoring the word experience. The steak is brought to you partially cooked on an 800-degree stone, and you do the rest. It's a ton of fun, it's a great meal, and it's a baseball atmosphere like no other in Pittsburgh. North Shore Tavern, right across Federal Street from PNC Park. Well, you know where I'm going with this, right? I mean, day before the trade deadline, Newman's 28 years old. You'd have to think Newman could bring you something in a fair exchange. In addition to how he's hitting right now and the easily translatable similarities to how he hit in 2019 at other points of his career. Add on to that he was a Gold Glove finalist and at shortstop, no less. And you'd think there'd be a contender somewhere could use a player like that. In addition to everything else, there's also his flexibility to move all across the infield diamond, including where he's at now for the Pirates at second base because O'Neal Cruz is getting his time at short. My question is, do you want to do it? Do you want to do it? My own feeling is that I'd be a little queasy about it, much the same way that I was about Adam Frazier. Frazier, we had watched all the work that he put in, that he adjusted to in the off seasons, that he worked on his swing, the way he made himself into what should have been a Gold Glove second baseman. And then you send these guys off right as they've just hit that exact point where you wanted them all along. You know what I'm saying? So that's the queasiness that comes into it. But a lot like the Frazier trade, you could also win it, maybe even win it big. Let's remember that the Frazier trade was the one that brought Jack Suwinski and Tucupita Marcano. Now, I don't know that both of those guys are going to make it, but I'd like to think Suwinski certainly got a chance, and Marcano has been Indy's very best hitter over the past month. So I think you're going to see both of those kids back up here in Pittsburgh very, very soon, maybe within the week, based on something I was told yesterday at the ballpark. Now, the very best version of Newman isn't going to get you that. Frazier was one of the NL's leading hitters at the time of the trade. But if there is any kind of meaningful prospect return, and they're a little closer to the majors than the A-ball guys that Ben Cherington now says he doesn't want to acquire anymore. At least that's what he told the Mets in the Daniel Vogelback deal. Yeah, you probably do it. You don't give them away, but you probably do it. Because the other facet to this is, even though the Pirates don't currently have anyone pushing for second base from underneath, they likely will before long. Nick Gonzalez, easily one of their top 2 or 3 prospects, is going to get healthy at some point, and he's going to hit at a major league level, and second base is his position. If it isn't him, you do have other guys who played there, Diego Castillo, Hoy Park. I could run through a bunch of other names, but you get the idea. That's Gonzalez's position to lose ultimately. So keeping Newman and then paying him via arbitration, okay, all right, talk me into it. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Kyle, who says, Dejan, between covering all of Pittsburgh's 3 big league teams, how do you take the Pirates seriously? I'm honestly asking because they operate on a totally different level than the others. As you can imagine, Kyle's question wasn't the only one that came this way after a rotten day like yesterday that was in this tone. Not to mention after a 7-game losing streak, not to mention after losing 12 out of their last 14, not to mention after getting blown out again, and then having it happen in front of the big crowds. And I know they were Philly people, at least half of them, but still, those can also be fun atmospheres. And the Pirates made damn sure that there wasn't a fun thing going on at PNC Park for those 4 days. One of the things that always comes this way whenever things are going very badly for the Pirates, like now, is why do you cover them at all? Why do you give them the coverage that they don't deserve? Why do you treat them as if they're equal to the Steelers and the Penguins in town when they're not? And my answer to this probably comes across as disappointingly simple to a lot of the people who hear it, but journalists aren't activists. We're not going to partake in some kind of protest related to subject matter that we cover. I know that sports isn't the same as covering, war and politics and murder and everything else, but it's got to be based on the same principles. It just does, or it doesn't work. So that's part one. Part two is you make a decision about the type of coverage that you assign to a subject matter based on the interest level. Now, for those people who only pay attention to the Pirates peripherally enough, just enough, so that they can pick up enough crumbs to slam them and bury everybody, not just Bob Nutting, that's the lowest hanging fruit, but everybody and everything associated with the Pirates, including the people who buy tickets to go to the games, including the people who cover the games, under some insane pretense that we're part of the problem. I've heard that one a lot. You're part of the problem. You're giving them the attention or the legitimacy that they don't deserve. Look, you're free to your opinions on that. Anybody is, okay? But the decision that I made, me, unilaterally, when I left newspapers to start my own business 8 years ago and covering sports, was that I would cover all three of Pittsburgh's big league teams exactly the same way. So I'd never have an up period or a down period, or we're not going to do these games, or we're not going to do those games because the team stinks. We would make the same level of commitment to the coverage for Steelers, Penguins, and Pirates. Now, there are variances within the beats. For example, the Steelers only play 17 regular season games. I go to every single game, home or road. That's kind of a no-brainer. The Pirates play, of course, 162 games, and that would be a slightly bigger challenge. But we as an outlet, DK Pittsburgh Sports, we're at every game. We're at all 162. We're at every session. We're at every day of spring training. We go everywhere that the Pirates do. Why? Because that affords us access to the players, to the sources that we need. The only other local entity that travels with the Pirates is the Post-Gazette, our 250-year-old newspaper in town. And also, guess what? The interest is very much there. If you really hate the Pirates, you might not wish this to be true, or you might just look at attendance figures and think that that somehow gauges the overall interest in the team, and it's just not true. We have numbers. We have data. We know how many people read our articles about the Pirates. We know how many people listen to Daily Shot of Pirates. And we know that those figures work very well for our business. So we're not doing it as some sort of act of charity or to partake in the con or anything like that. We're doing it as a sports journalism outlet that 8 years ago made a decision that we would cover all three teams the same way. No apologies here. Believe me, we're not changing it. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everyone listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. We'll do another one of these tomorrow, I guess, right? Aren't we? Yeah? Okay, good.